My wife betrayed me with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming ownership of our house and everything we built together. I never suspected she'd take it all and fight me in court over the property. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, especially not after 10 years of marriage. But here I am, sitting in my own living room, staring at a stack of bank statements and a series of text messages that make my blood run cold. The most shocking part: my wife Lisa, who I always thought was the perfect partner, turned out to be cheating on me with her boss, Mark. And if that wasn't enough, she's stolen over $250,000 from our joint account and is now fighting me in court over the house we built together. It all started about 3 months ago. At first, I noticed she was acting a little strange, more distant, secretive, always on her phone late at night. She'd brush it off, say she was working late or catching up with her sister. But I had a gut feeling something was off. I'd catch her in little lies, things like forgetting to pick up the dry cleaning or changing plans at the last minute. I chalked it up to stress at work or her being tired, but deep down, I knew better. Then came the signs that made me suspicious enough to dig deeper. I started noticing her phone was always locked, even around me, and she'd get defensive if I tried to look at it. I caught her deleting texts one night, and that's when I decided I had to look at her phone when she wasn't around. I was careful, waiting for the right moment, and one night when she went out with her friends, I snuck into her purse and grabbed her phone. What I found made my stomach drop. There were messages between her and Mark, flirty, intimate, and clearly not just professional. They were talking about meeting up after hours, about keeping things between us, and even more disturbing, there were explicit sex messages. I couldn't believe my eyes. The woman I trusted, the woman I built a life with, was sleeping with her boss, and they'd been doing it for months. But that wasn't the worst part. Hidden in her email account, I found bank statements showing transfers of money, dozens of wire transfers, each one for thousands of dollars. Over $250, $0 had been moved out of our joint account into accounts I'd never seen before. It was like she was stealing from us in plain sight, and I had no idea. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we'd built? I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The moment I confronted her, everything exploded. I remember standing in the living room, holding her phone and the bank statements, furious and broken at the same time. She looked at me with that icy, bitchy smile and started twisting the story before I even got a chance to speak. She said I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that she'd never cheat on me, that I was overreacting because I was insecure. She called me crazy, said I was jealous, and accused me of snooping because I didn't trust her. But I wasn't going to be fooled. I knew what I saw. I told her I had proof, that I knew about her affair and the money. Her reaction: she shrugged, acted like she was the victim, and then started crying fake tears, claiming she loved me but was stressed out and needed an outlet. She said it was just sex with Mark, just a fling, that she'd never hurt me intentionally. That's when I realized she was lying through her teeth. She'd been lying to my face all along, spinning her stories, gaslighting me. I couldn't believe how manipulative she was being. That day, I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I trusted her for so long, and now I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a thief, and a cheat. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't know if I'd ever recover. I kept looking at the bank statements and her messages, trying to process what it all meant. How could she do this? How could she lie and steal from us and then turn around and act like I was the crazy one? It was like she was trying to rewrite history, to make me doubt myself. But I knew the truth now. She was the one who betrayed us, and I couldn't let this slide. I needed a plan. I knew I couldn't just confront her and hope it all went away. I had to be smart, gather evidence, protect what was mine, and figure out the best way to fight back. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, especially not the house we worked so hard for, not the life we built. I was furious, but also calm enough to start thinking about how to handle this mess. And that's where I am now, trying to figure out my next move, knowing that the woman I loved and trusted has turned into someone I barely recognize. It's a horrible feeling, the kind that eats you up from the inside, but I know I have to face it head on. Because if I don't, she'll just keep taking everything from me, and I refuse to let her win. After I found out the truth, everything changed in an instant. The trust I'd had for Lisa shattered like glass, and suddenly I saw every moment we shared through a different lens, one filled with lies, betrayal, and manipulation. I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to process what I'd discovered, but the anger was building up inside me like a volcano ready to erupt. I knew I had to act quickly, not just to protect myself but to prevent her from doing any more damage. The first thing I did was to call my lawyer. I needed advice on how to handle the situation legally, especially with her claiming ownership of the house and fighting over the assets. It was surreal. Here I was, thinking we were in this together, and now I was heading into a legal battle I never wanted. But I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything she'd stolen. I also started digging into our financial accounts, trying to trace exactly how much money she had taken and where it all went. I wanted concrete proof, and I wanted to be prepared. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude was infuriating. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, and that I was just jealous or insecure. She threw tantrums, called me paranoid, and insisted she'd never cheat or steal from me. She also insisted that she owned the house now, claiming I had no right because she'd paid for everything when she'd secretly been siphoning money away. She acted like she was the victim, crying fake tears and accusing me of ruining her reputation. It was maddening. I could see right through her lies, but she was good at spinning them. One night she even tried to gaslight me into doubting my own sanity. She told me that I was imagining things, that I was paranoid because I didn't trust her, and that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She said she loved me and that everything would be fine if I just calmed down, but I knew better. I had seen the evidence, her messages, the bank transfers, the way she was acting. There was no way I could ignore it anymore. I decided I needed to get more concrete evidence before confronting her again. I hired a private investigator to dig into her activities, her secret accounts, and her whereabouts. I wanted to know if she was still in contact with Mark or anyone else. The investigator found out that she'd been meeting Mark in secret, sometimes even at the house when I wasn't there. They'd been sneaking around for months, and she'd been lying about her whereabouts constantly. It was like she was living a double life, and I was the fool who didn't see it. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The woman I'd given my life to had turned into someone I didn't recognize. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind. Part of me wanted to forgive her, maybe I still do deep down, but another part knew that trust was broken beyond repair. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every time she lied, I felt more distant, more cold. Yet even with all this chaos, I knew I had to stay composed. I couldn't let her see how much she was hurting me, not yet. My priority was protecting what was mine, our house, our savings, and my dignity. I started gathering everything I could, screenshots of her messages, copies of bank transfers, her emails. I wanted to have everything documented when I finally took her to court. I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this one. One thing that really struck me during this whole ordeal was how she kept insisting she was the victim, how she accused me of being controlling or insecure. She'd say I was paranoid for even suspecting her, that I was making her out to be the bad guy. I couldn't believe how she spun it, like she was the innocent party, the one who deserved sympathy. She even tried to turn our friends and family against me, claiming I was just jealous or that I was crazy. It was classic gaslighting, but I wasn't falling for it. I knew her game now. The hardest part was the emotional. One minute I was furious, planning how to fight her legally, and the next I was devastated, questioning everything I believed about our marriage. I remember lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling numb and angry all at once. I kept thinking about the life we'd built, our home, our plans, the future I thought we were working toward. All of that was slipping away and I couldn't stop it. But I had no choice. I had to stand tall, protect myself, and fight back. I wasn't going to let her walk away with our house, our money, and the reputation I'd built. The betrayal was too deep, and I knew I'd be better off without someone like her in my life. I just didn't realize how much. It would hurt to come to that conclusion. Still, I promised myself I wouldn't let her destroy everything we'd worked for. I'd find a way to rebuild, even if it meant starting over from scratch. After gathering enough evidence and consulting with my lawyer, I realized I couldn't just confront Lisa again without risking her destroying everything. She was manipulative, and I knew she'd try to spin things or even try to turn the tables on me. I had to be strategic. I started building my case, making sure I had every piece of proof I needed: bank statements, messages, her secret emails, everything. I also made copies of all the documents, just in case she tried to destroy or hide anything. One thing I didn't expect was how quickly Lisa's attitude changed once she realized I was serious. She started acting even more bitchy and dismissive, trying to gaslight me into believing I was overreacting. She'd tell me that I was paranoid, that I was crazy for accusing her of stealing money and cheating. She'd say I was insecure, that she was just tired from work and stressed out, and that I was making her life miserable. It was all bullshit, but it worked on some people, not me. She also doubled down on her lies about the house. She claimed she owned it outright now because she'd paid for everything, which was a flat-out lie. I knew we'd paid that house off together, every mortgage payment, every renovation, every penny. But she insisted she had the right to it, claiming I had no claim anymore. That was when I knew she was planning to fight me in court to keep the house, even though she'd stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from us. I decided I had to act fast. I contacted a divorce lawyer and started the process, knowing that I had a solid case for financial abuse, theft, and infidelity. I also filed for a temporary restraining order to prevent her from selling or transferring any more assets. I couldn't let her get away with any more of my money or property. The lawyer told me I had a strong case, especially with the evidence I had collected, but it would be a long, stressful fight. Meanwhile, Lisa kept lying and spinning her stories. She'd tell everyone that I was the bad guy, that I was trying to control her, that she was the victim of my jealous obsession. She even went as far as to accuse me of cheating, something I'd never even thought about doing. She wanted to paint me as the crazy, suspicious husband, but I had proof of her affair, her theft, and her manipulation. I knew I had to stay calm and let the evidence speak for itself. One day, I caught her in a lie that was too blatant to ignore. She was arguing with me about the house, claiming she had paid for it all herself. I pulled out the bank statements and showed her the transfers, money she'd transferred to her accounts under false pretenses. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I saw the cracks in her facade. She tried to deny it, but I had her cornered. That was the moment I realized how much she'd been lying and how far she was willing to go to keep what she stole. I also started to piece together how she'd been living her double life. The secret meetings with Mark, the late-night phone calls, the money transfers, everything pointed to a full-blown betrayal. I felt sick thinking about the countless nights I'd spent trusting her, believing we were building a future. Instead, she was busy sneaking around, stealing from us, and lying to my face. The anger was intense, but I knew I had to keep my composure if I was going to win this fight. Throughout all this, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. I'd lost my partner, someone I loved and trusted. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see her true colors sooner. It hurt knowing she'd been lying to me for months, maybe even longer. Every day was of emotions: anger, sadness, frustration, and sometimes hope that I could come out of this stronger. One thing I learned was how dangerous it is to ignore the signs of betrayal. I'd always trusted her, but I should have been more cautious. I realized that sometimes, the people closest to you can turn out to be the ones who hurt you the most. I also learned the importance of protecting myself legally and financially. If I hadn't started taking these steps, I might have lost everything, including my home and savings, to someone who didn't deserve it. Now I'm at a point where I have to prepare for the court battle ahead. Lisa is fighting me tooth and nail, trying to claim the house and the money she stole. She's spinning stories, trying to manipulate everyone around her into thinking she's the victim. But I have the proof, and I know the truth. It's just a matter of time before the court sees through her lies. Still, I can't shake the feeling of betrayal. It's like a wound that keeps bleeding, even as I try to move forward. The hardest part is knowing this isn't just about money or property. It's about trust, something I thought I had with her. Now I realize that trust was fragile and that I was blind to her true nature. I have to rebuild my life from this mess, but I also have to learn how to be more cautious, more aware. Because if I don't, I could end up in the same situation again. And honestly, I don't ever want to feel this kind of betrayal again. By the time I had everything organized and my lawyer had filed the necessary motions, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had some clarity, some proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Dread because I knew Lisa wasn't going down without a fight, and her manipulative side was only going to get worse as the court proceedings moved forward. Still, I couldn't back down now. I had to see this through, no matter how painful it was. In the days that followed, Lisa's behavior became even more hostile. She started lashing out at me in ways I'd never seen before. She'd call me names, accuse me of being controlling or insecure, and try to turn the kids against me. I have two teenagers, and she's been trying to paint me as the villain to them, claiming I was trying to control her and that I was paranoid. That hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. Seeing her manipulate the kids and make herself out to be the victim made me realize just how far she was willing to go to save her own skin. Meanwhile, I kept gathering evidence, but I also had to focus on protecting my mental health. I started seeing a counselor, someone who helped me process everything and stay grounded. I couldn't let her manipulation get to me, even though she tried her best to break me. I also kept a journal, writing down everything I knew and every new lie she told. It helped me keep my thoughts clear and prepared me for the inevitable courtroom battles ahead. One of the most startling moments came when she showed up unexpectedly at the house, trying to intimidate me into dropping the case. She was furious, screaming about how I was ruining her life, how she deserved the house because she'd paid for everything, and how I was just a jealous, insecure husband. She was crying, yelling, and trying to guilt-trip me into giving up. I just stood there calm but firm, telling her she had no right to take what wasn't hers and that I had all the proof to prove her lies. That was the first time I saw her truly lose her composure. It was like watching a wild animal cornered. The court date was set for a few weeks later, and I knew I had to be ready. I worked closely with my lawyer to make sure I had all the evidence in order, proof of her affair, the stolen money, her attempts to claim ownership of the house, and her manipulative tactics. I also prepared myself emotionally, knowing that this would be the most intense confrontation yet. I wasn't just fighting over property. I was fighting to reclaim my dignity and to protect what little was left of the life I thought I knew. On the day of the hearing, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Sitting in that courtroom, I saw Lisa sitting across from me, her face cold and calculating. She tried to appear innocent, but I could see her desperation lurking behind her eyes. As my lawyer laid out the evidence, I felt a strange sense of vindication. All those sleepless nights, all the pain of betrayal was finally coming to light. The judge listened carefully, and I could tell she saw through Lisa's manipulations. When it was Lisa's turn to speak, she tried her usual tactics, crying, pleading, claiming she was the victim. She spun her lies about how I was controlling, jealous, and paranoid. But I had my evidence, screenshots, bank records, witness statements, and I was ready. I explained calmly how she'd stolen from us, cheated on me, and tried to claim ownership of the house. I told the court about her attempts to manipulate everyone, including the kids, and about her secret meetings with Mark. I could see the judge taking notes, nodding at the facts I presented. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. She ordered Lisa to return the stolen money, cease any further attempts to claim the house, and stay away from me and the kids during the proceedings. It wasn't the complete victory I'd hoped for, but it was enough to stop her from doing more damage for now. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but I also knew this was just the beginning of a long fight to rebuild and heal. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt exhausted but victorious. I had faced the storm head-on and come out the other side with some sense of justice. But it also made me realize how much I'd been blind, how I'd trusted her for so long even when the signs were right in front of me. I couldn't change the past, but I could control my future. I decided I would focus on healing, on protecting myself and my kids, and on rebuilding my life without her. That whole experience has changed me forever. I've learned that sometimes the people you love the most can betray you in ways you never imagined. Trust is fragile, and it can be shattered in a heartbeat. I also learned the importance of standing up for yourself, even when it's hard. Because if I hadn't fought for what was rightfully mine, I'd be living a lie, and I refuse to be a victim of someone else's deception anymore. Now I'm just taking one day at a time, trying to put the pieces back together, and figuring out what happiness really means for me. After the court victory, I thought things would start to settle down, but I quickly realized that the aftermath of betrayal is a long, complicated road. Lisa was furious, and her anger didn't fade away easily. She kept trying to manipulate the situation, insisting she was the real victim, claiming that I was trying to ruin her life. She even started spreading rumors to friends and family, painting herself as the wronged wife who was unfairly accused. It was like she was fighting to maintain her false image, even as the evidence piled up against her. In the meantime, I focused on securing my finances and protecting what was left. I transferred all remaining joint assets into my own name, closed accounts she had access to, and started rebuilding my savings. The financial hit from her theft was severe. I lost a lot, but I was determined not to let her ruin me completely. I also took steps to ensure she couldn't access the house or any other property without legal approval. The house, which I had thought was our shared home, now felt like a every corner reminded me of the life I thought I had and the betrayal that shattered it. Emotionally, I was drained. I'd gone from feeling betrayed and angry to numb and exhausted. I kept asking myself how I got here, how I didn't see the signs, how I'd been so blind to her manipulations. I'd loved her, given her my trust, and in return, I got lies, theft, and a court fight. It was a bitter pill to swallow, and some nights I'd lie awake, replaying everything in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I knew I had done everything I could. The only thing left now was to focus on healing and moving forward. One of the hardest parts was dealing with the fallout among our children. They loved their mother, and I knew she was trying to manipulate them into believing I was the villain. I had to be careful with what I said around them because I didn't want to poison their minds. I explained to them that sometimes adults make mistakes and that their mom was very upset, but I also reassured them that I loved them and wanted what was best for all of us. It was heartbreaking to see their confusion and pain, but I knew I had to stay strong for their sake. As the weeks went on, I started to rebuild my life slowly but surely. I found a new job, moved into a smaller apartment, and tried to focus on my children and myself. I didn't want to let her steal my happiness, even if she'd stolen so much from me. I also sought therapy, not just to get through the emotional pain, but to learn how to trust again and to understand how to recognize warning signs in the future. I realized that I'd been too trusting, too eager to see the best in her, and that I needed to be more cautious moving forward. Despite everything, I've come to accept that I can't change what happened. I can only control how I respond to it. I've learned that betrayal cuts deep and it can take a long time to heal. But I also know that I am stronger than I thought. I've faced the worst, and I'm still standing. The house is now legally mine, and I've taken steps to ensure she can't come back or cause any more trouble. I've also started focusing on my future, finding new hobbies, reconnecting with friends, and trying to rediscover what happiness means for me now. One thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar is, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags no matter how much you love someone. Be proactive about protecting yourself, financially, emotionally, and legally. And don't be afraid to seek help, whether from friends, family, or professionals. The pain of betrayal is real, but you don't have to face it alone. Healing is possible even after you've been hurt deeply. It takes time, patience, and a lot of courage, but you can come out stronger on the other side. I still have scars from this experience, but I also have a newfound sense of clarity. I know now that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, things I once took for granted. Lisa's betrayal taught me a hard lesson about trust and the importance of protecting myself. I'm not proud of everything that happened, but I am proud that I stood my ground and fought for what was rightfully mine. And as I look toward the future, I know I will never let anyone manipulate or betray me like that again. That's the real lesson I take from all this. Now, looking back on everything, I realize how much I've grown from this chaos. It's been a brutal ride, filled with heartbreak, anger, and moments where I genuinely questioned if I could survive it all. But I did. I stand here today, battered but stronger, having reclaimed what was stolen from me and finally starting to piece my life back together. The house is legally mine. The court confirmed what I always knew in my gut. Lisa's lies and theft were unacceptable, and I deserved better. One thing I've learned is that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it changes you. It forces you to confront your own naivety and reassess what trust really means. I used to believe that love meant unconditional trust, but now I see that trust has to be earned and protected. I've become more cautious, more aware of the red flags that I once ignored. I won't be so quick to overlook someone's actions again. Because once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to repair completely, and I refuse to be by someone's lies again. Emotionally, I've come to accept that some wounds don't heal completely, but they fade over time. The pain of betrayal is a heavy burden, but it also taught me resilience. I've learned to set boundaries, to stand up for myself, and to prioritize my well-being above all else. I've also realized how important it is to have a support system, friends, family, or professionals, to help you through the darkest moments. I am grateful for the people who stood by me, who believed in my strength even when I doubted myself. Most importantly, I've come to appreciate the value of self-love and forgiveness, both for myself and, eventually, for Lisa. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from the poison of bitterness and anger that can eat you alive. I've chosen to forgive her not because I think she deserves it, but because I need to let go of the pain to move forward. Holding on to hatred only keeps me chained to the past, and I refuse to let her control my future. This experience has taught me that life can change in an instant, and sometimes the person you trust the most can turn out to be your biggest enemy. But it also showed me that I am capable of surviving even the worst storms. I've learned to stand tall, to face the truth, and to choose my own happiness over the lies. I know now that I am worthy of respect, honesty, and love, things I almost forgot I deserved. Today, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life, one step at a time. I've started to dream again, to plan a future that's solely mine. I've cut out the toxicity, set firm boundaries, and surrounded myself with people who genuinely care. And as I do all this, I carry a quiet confidence. You can't take that away from me anymore. Betrayal may have broken my trust, but it didn't break my spirit. So to anyone out there who's going through something similar, stay strong, trust your instincts, protect yourself fiercely. And remember, no matter how dark things seem right now, there is light on the other side. Healing takes time, but it's worth it. You are worth it. Never forget that.